There is blockbuster new audio today that gives us some insight into that. It comes from progressive activist and documentarian Lauren Windsor. Ms. Windsor, who is known for approaching high-profile conservative figures, pretending to be an ally, and then recording them making candid comments, spoke to Justice Alito at the Supreme Court Historical Society's annual dinner earlier this month, where she asked him about political polarization.
As a Catholic and as someone who really cherishes my faith, I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think that it's a matter of winning.
I think you're probably right. I think one side or the other is going to win. I don't know. I mean, there can be a way of working, a way of living together peacefully, but it's difficult, because there are differences on fundamental things that really can't be compromised. Really can't be compromised. So it's not like we're going to split the difference.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that the solution really is winning the moral argument. People in this country who believe in God have got to keep fighting for that, to return our country to a place of godliness.
Oh, I agree with you.
So what was this event that you spoke to Judge Alito and Martha Ann Alito, his wife? We all know the story of the flags and their next door neighbors. And I have the tape of him, and I have then I cut Mrs. Alito into two different tapes. One where she talks about, having her own Sacred Heart flag. And then the first part when you have a conversation with her. Before we get into that, so how did you get that close to them, and how did they let you that close to ask these questions?
Well, the Supreme Court Historical Society, you can become a member and you can attend events if you buy tickets for them. And so I became a member and I bought a ticket to the event and I went. And, the first year, there were a lot more justices in attendance. And this was right after ProPublica had released its reporting on Clarence Thomas. And so, I was
For those that are listening and they don't know what you're talking, the report was about Thomas accepting these gifts to the tunes of millions of dollars. And of course, we all had learned earlier about Ginny Thomas, his wife, and she was on the Mall on January the 6th. Mm-hmm. And her comments to Mark Meadows via text talking about, not giving up the presidency, just crazy stuff. So go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So, in my wildest dreams, I was hopefully Clarence Thomas and Harlan Crow will be there. Mm-hmm. And that was really, wanting to delve into, getting more answers on that reporting. But, there was a high likelihood he wasn't going to show up for obvious reasons. And he wasn't there, but, Amy Coney Barrett was there. Justice Roberts was there. Brett Kavanaugh. There weren't any liberal justices there except for Justice Breyer, who had been the featured speaker during their lecture before the dinner. But, I met the majority of them. I think I at least shook hands with all of them. I want to say that Gorsuch was there, but I don't remember that specifically. He may not have been there. I do know for sure that I shook hands with Brett Kavanaugh and, obviously Alito, because it's in the tape. But, I had the opportunity to talk to him after dinner. And, at the time, there had been this, brouhaha about finding the Dobbs leaker, and people suspected it was him. And so I had to kind of tiptoe into that conversation. And I felt like asking a broader question about the polarization that was happening in the country would be the best way to do that, so not to were you able to find the Supreme Court, the Dobbs leaker, might have been a kind of harsh, aggressive opener. So, it's just more broadly opening it up. They ask you, not to discuss, pending cases before the court or, court business. You might be asked to leave the grounds if you do. And so I had to be very careful. And
didn't they do a background check on you? I mean, didn't they know of your past?
Apparently not, but I don't think that's the way the background checks work in these situations. It's they're not doing like a social media vet. It's
Right. Lauren, let me ask this. What's it look like? You're in there. Are there tables in there? You're eating dinner at tables, and then you walk around like a cocktail party or something and get to talk to everybody? Or is there a line? You get in that line, you go by. Do they have their robes on? Or is it
no,
like
they're socializing. It's not like that. They don't have their robes on. That's funny. But they have a cocktail reception before the dinner. And actually, it was in 2 different places in the court between the years. The first year that I went in 2023, it was kind of in a nicer space where these like open salons in like sort of a wing that was like off of where the court and the main hall are. But they had it downstairs this year. And so when you walk in security, you like walk out and you're basically like walking into what looks kind of like it's like a big marble hall that has like exhibits or like about the Constitution and stuff. It has, kind of a museum quality to it, but they'd set up these, standing cocktail tables and had some bars and had a couple food stations. And so people are just like milling about, and it seemed like less attended than the year before, but you just kind of cruise around and see who's there. And sure enough, like for a while, actually, though, I think it was like for the first 30 or 45 minutes, you didn't see anybody. And so, I finally am sitting there. I'm like, oh, I mean, it's just like no one going to show up for the reception this year because of all the scrutiny on the court. Maybe people just show up to the dinner. And then I look over and Alito's right there. And I was like, okay, I mean, this might be, ideally I would want to talk to him after the dinner, after he's had a couple glasses of wine. But, you got to take your shots where you can get them. So
did you have a phone? Did you use your phone to record?
I'm not going to talk about methodology.
Okay.
But, we have an audio recording, and it's not illegal to record in the Supreme Court building. It's they have a prohibition in the courtroom itself, like
Right.
the Supreme Court itself. You cannot do a recording in the courtroom, but outside of that, there's no prohibition. There, was a prohibition from the Supreme Court Historical Society on camera use. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, so she registered. It's important because I've seen a couple reporters are such jealous bitches, man. I've seen a couple like this isn't the way that we do it.
Yeah.
And BC, but she did this thing, and then people are criticizing the way Laura did. But she used her own name. It's their fault if they have it because she's got a big body of work and paid. They bet you have to give a credit card or whatever. They have to. So, and it was at the Supreme Court is a public place, and it wasn't where they do the whatever. So there's absolutely nothing. If you have a problem with the way she did it, it's because you didn't think of it or you didn't have the courage to do it. Because
and they're taking all your information. They're reporting on your information, right?
For sure. There's a lot of pearl clutching going on with this, but it's, what are you hoping to accomplish? I even had like some reporters yesterday, like, do you think that, they would give you different answers if you identified yourself as a journalist? And I was like,
Jesus.
you got to be fucking kidding me. Like, how are you employed at a major mainstream publication?
Okay, I want to play a couple of the sound bites here.
This person out or the publication out, but wow.
I love the way you speak with them because it's really it's masterful the way that because you have the questions down perfectly and the way that their responses come. I mean, I'm going to play Alito first, and then I'm going to play Martha and Alito secondly. But this first one is your conversations with this, and I got it from your Twitter feed. So there's closed captioning for people that are watching this. If you're listening to it, we'll talk a little bit at the end and recap. Okay, listen to this.
I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think that it's a matter of winning.
I think you're probably right. I think one side or the other is going to win. I don't know. I mean, there can be a way of working, a way of living together peacefully, but it's difficult, because there are differences on fundamental things that really can't be compromised. They really can't be compromised. So it's not like we're going to split the difference.
Wow.
Yikes.
Yikes. When you were listening to that, was your head going, oh my God, he's saying this out loud?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, in the moment, I'm like, yes, this is exactly like what I was hoping to get, like some indication of bias, because, theoretically, and it's, a foundational principle, like bedrock to our democracy, our judicial system is the impartiality of the court. They all pretend to be impartial in their Senate hearings, right? They can put aside ideology, put aside their religious beliefs, right? But this is verbal confirmation out of his mouth that some things can't be compromised. So, if I were a reporter for a mainstream publication, I might try when I'm next reporting on the court to ask them, what are these things that are not uncompromised? Like, what are the things you're not going to compromise on? Because certainly that's going to affect how you rule in these, life-changing court cases. And the American people deserve answers. And for me, like, to go back to what Tom was talking about, these journalists who want to act like I, committed some huge journalistic crime, like, there's a long tradition of undercover journalism. And in this particular instance, I think that it is justified to use these means when you have an institution that is shrouded in secrecy and is evading any attempted accountability whatsoever. And then, discover that one of the jurists is, accepting millions of dollars of, crazy gifts, like nothing that any reasonable person would consider like rational. If Clarence Thomas were only going on, expensive vacations with Harlan Crow, would we be talking about this? No, we wouldn't. But the fact that Harlan Crow bought his mother's house, paid for his nephew's tuition, he had like a free RV loan, essentially. We have no answers on, who ultimately paid. Well, we know that he had a loan and that ultimately wasn't repaid. But we're just supposed to be like, okay, just do it.
Kavanaugh's mortgage.
Yeah.
Right, but all in the name of decorum. Like, no, I'm sorry. It's not okay.
ProPublica is great work. I mean, they don't get enough. They do great work in a lot of areas, a very comprehensive work. And when they first started talking about Clarence Thomas and wrote about it, there's a lot of people on the right. They're like, they're attacking him. They're attacking poor Harlan Crow. That's mean. That's mean. But I think now people are like, when you see the chart of how much to Clarence Thomas, $4 million, and then little tiny things that the rest of them, it's a problem. It is a big problem. And I think too, with Alito, these guys they feel wronged. They feel their feelings are hurt by all this. Clarence Thomas, how dare, and their wives' feelings are hurt. And it's weird because they're members of the Supreme Court. You think that would be enough. But I also think that they're nerds. These people that get up there and study and that get the Supreme Court, they're nerds. And they like the attention. You can tell the Alitos love the attention.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know what I want? I want a Sacred Heart of Jesus flag because I have to look across the lagoon at the Pride flag for the next month.
Exactly.
And he's like, oh, please don't put up a flag. I said, I won't do it because I'm deferring to you. But when you are free of this nonsense, I'm putting it up and I'm going to send them a message every day. Maybe every week I'll be changing the flags. There'll be all kinds. I made a flag in my head. This is how I satisfy myself. I made a flag. It's white and it's yellow and orange flames around it. And in the middle is the word vergogna. Vergogna in Italian means shame. Vergogna. VERGOGNA. Vergogna.
Let me say, I'm going to say something. She's pretty hilarious character. I mean, she is a hilarious character. And, you know,
I mean, if the world weren't hanging on the line, Tom, it would be funny.
well,
But it's
she's like Martha Mitchell, man, and she's probably read about Martha Mitchell. You know, she has friends at the Washington Post, the Ms. Alito, who were afraid to do the story about the flag originally because she is hilarious at parties. I mean, there's some boundaries crossed there.
Can I
But
jump in real quick? Remind
yeah,
people, if you don't know who Martha Mitchell is, John Mitchell's wife from back in 72 in the Nixon, you got to go back and read about her because she was a trip. She really was. Go ahead.
yeah. And Julia Roberts played her in the series. It's pretty good series. So check it out. She's great.
So listening to her and putting all this, as this all came together, how long were you actually doing these interviews? And how did it end? Did it end with you just saying, I have enough now, or did they leave? Or I mean, at the end of that, did you really have a sense that they were fully buying who you were?
Well, when you say when you were doing these interviews, I mean, we were having conversations,
Yeah.
obviously it wasn't like an interview.
Right.
You know, it's like, talking to somebody for like 5 minutes, you go up, introduce yourself, have a conversation about something. And, it was friendly and cordial. And
Is there part of you that feels sorry for them knowing you're about to blow up their world?
No.
I mean, there's always a sense of empathy that I have with people that I am about to release news on. But that's why I, don't go after like civilians. So, and I hate the comparison to James O'Keefe, but inevitably it will be made. And the difference for me is, is someone a public servant? Is someone an elected official? And in the case of Martha Ann Alito, people will say, well, she's the wife of a Supreme Court justice. She has privacy rights. Well, if she's going to be injected into the political conversation by her husband, and she's going to inject herself into the political conversation, when she's flying these flags, does she have First Amendment rights? Sure, she does. But when those are political flags that are bringing the impartiality of her husband to bear in a in every term is consequential, but this one is so consequential when we think about the January 6th and Trump immunity cases and everything that's about to come down with reproductive rights. And so I just, in her case, she is not above, accountability here. She
You're right.
is.
No, she's a public figure. She's a public figure who publicly flew the insurrection flag right after the insurrection, whose husband has publicly spoken about her. He threw her under the bus. He said, so she, coming into this thing, and by the way, this was last week, Chip. She was there last week in the Supreme Court. So she's coming in there, and she has to have some sense of awareness. But she feels wrong. So everything she said, besides getting to know her personality a little better, they didn't track down, their kid somewhere at work. And this is just how it's done, because she is now a face of those two, the Alitos, that's who, and she put it right out there. And you know what, when you put it out there, you better be able to back it up. So I think I think she loves doing it. I think she's listening to everything Lauren put out the last couple of days, reading every comment. I think she loves it.
Well, I got to say this. I just think that what you do, Lauren, is so important. So many of us talk about things that need to be done. My wife and I talk about it all the time. We're not moving. We're staying here. We grew up in D.C. We politicos our whole lives, right? And to see what's happened the last 10 years, it's unfathomably horrid. And that people go out there like you. And I know people think you get millions of dollars overnight from this, right? And you get death threats and you get support. But most, I know a lot of negative shit comes your way. And I know I'm speaking for Tom when I say how much we really appreciate it and how thankful I am that people like you go out and do this, because people have to know that where we are, we are on a cliff's edge. And
the thing is that Lauren puts herself out there. She's not a great big woman or dude. She goes in,
What does that mean?
by herself. I'm gonna tell you, man. She goes in by herself. She when she talks to them, she's talking as the person. I don't. Did you grow up in Nashville or something? You got that son. You bring that out, and but it's a like I say, I was there once when it did not go well, and it went well for me because I thought it was great. But I think that's vulnerable. I'm always concerned about you doing this, and I think that the things have grown in the world of journalism where you're getting the respect that you because she's been doing this a long time, Chip. She's done some things that are, to me, even that are funny, that are dealing with the worst people, the Matt Gateses and these people. But I'm glad that she's getting the recognition that she needs. And she did tell me last week something big is coming, and I'm going to give you a hit. And I said, I'll blast it out there. Of course, my first tweet, she goes, "Take that down. You just gave everything away." But it really is big. And this story built yesterday. The first time I saw it on a TV, and then it built, and then it was everywhere. Everybody found a version of this to go all in. And sometimes stories, when you do something, you release this thing, this tape, this whatever, that's it right there in that moment. That's it. It goes away. But this thing built and built and built, and still is. And that's really important, and it's really good for Lauren, and it's good for us Americans. I love
That's really no. It is. It's a huge. I mean, I know in the middle of it right now, but I saw this, and everyone's talking about it as they should.
Yeah.
I know you have been up all night, so we're gonna let you go take a nap. Thank you so much, and we'll stay in touch, and if we can ever help in any way, please let us know. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Chip. Thank you,
Lauren. I'll talk to you soon, kiddo.
All right.
Great job. Great job.